Well, I was just thinking before we started, I had a woman named Miss Tillery for 6th grade science. There were 45 of us in that class in this temporary building, and across the top of the blackboard it said, "Actions speak louder than words." And I saw that every day of the school year. And it just really fit with what I was being taught in church and family, too. And so that just became, I think, really the seed of my philosophy of teaching. As I mentioned, follow me. Christ calls us all to do that. And it's important for us to live a good life because there are others watching us who will follow us. And I wanted to credit Miss Tillery with who I followed, and hope that I have many that have followed me. But to me, it was always really important to create a safe classroom environment for everybody. There are always kids that are weak in your subject area, that they don't have any confidence because of academics. Or kids that are weak and are always picked on by bullies and things like that. And so to create that environment, I just didn't tolerate put-downs. And when someone would put someone else down, I would require them to give them 2 compliments. And that, for the most part, helped with most bullying. You know, there were times when other consequences had to be used, but that pretty well set the tone for the class. And everybody appreciated it enough to use it. The kids started using it. If they heard a put down maybe that I didn't hear, or before I could say something about a put down, there would be a kid that would say, "Give them 2 put-ups, we don't do that in here." So creating that really safe classroom environment was, I think, the greatest thing that I did in teaching. I also had some personal relationships with special kids that I'm proud of. And I have a story about one of those special kids that I wrote an article about after 9/11, who'd been bullied, and talking about this whole bullying issue and what a crisis we're in schools. Well, as I had mentioned, show me a bully and I'll show you somebody that's been bullied and who's hurting and who doesn't love or respect themselves. To me, when you see it as often as a classroom teacher might see it, the bullying is, you just know they can't love, they don't understand the concept of love, especially unconditional love. Because to hurt somebody else and to enjoy it is, to me, the lowest thing. And when you meet with them one-on-one is when you find out more about what's behind it. And I would take occasions to do that. In fact, when I gave detentions, 9 times out of 10, a detention wasn't so much a punishment. It was a "you and I need to talk" thing, and I would talk with them. You know, a lot of teachers would have them clean desk or sit there and rot, but I always talk to them and try to find out what's going on. And to find out that they really don't like that about themselves. You know, when you ask them about how does it make you feel when you do that kind of thing, and how does it make you feel to always be in trouble for that kind of thing, it's not something they're really proud of. Well, Robert had been sent by his family to Louisville, a suburb of Dallas, because he had become so gang involved in Dallas. And he was about 2 years older than his peers, and he had gotten in some serious trouble. So the principal chose me and a teacher across the hall to pretty much carry his schedule. The kids only have 4 periods a day. And he had me for biology and team leadership, and he had her for English. I guess he may have had PE or something like that. And we were chosen because we're firm and caring enough to really work with somebody like that and try to help them, like the family was clearly intended, that he get a new environment and to get some help to pull him away from that gang environment. So in my biology class, he was extremely quiet and just kind of hobbled along and made his way through. But in the teen leadership class, it's much more involved, It's a class where it's supposed to be self-revealing, and the kids are asked to share a concern and joy every day, to get their voice in the room, as we call it in teaching, to hear themselves talk and to have a place. You can't sit there and be quiet and just kind of make your way. So, and this is something that he found, and some kids always do find it difficult to do, to share a joy or concern, or to bring their voice into the room, period, in the beginning. But it's something that I really stay with them to get them just to say something. Even if I say, well, can you say that you had a good breakfast this morning? You know, just give them something to say. And they just repeat after me. They get their voice in the room, and they finally catch on to that. And a lot of kids really come to depend on that opportunity every day to be able to do that, either because they've got a joy they can't keep inside, or they've got a concern they really need to share, and they know they're going to share it with their peers who are going to keep it confidential. That's part of the class too. But this leadership class is, you know, to teach them that you're always going to be a leader of yourself if nobody else. And there's certain skills that you need to do that. And it was just a great class to help, that I use to help kids get to know themselves with self-awareness tools and to help them raise their self-esteem. The topics of the speeches were you know, led to leadership, but more than that, just the getting up and speaking in front of the group and learning to keep your hands still and make eye contact and things like that. You know, just getting up in front of the group. Some kids have always been like I was. My hands would get sweaty and my heart would be pounding if I ever had to get up in front of the class when I was in school as a student growing up. To get them over that fear, because they're going to have to do those kind of presentations in high school, you know. And certainly in college and in life, you need to be able to speak in front of a group. So the actual getting up in front of people and learning to do that, and learning that you can, getting the confidence that by the time you've done it 7 times in 9 weeks, you know you can do it. Well, I have to tell you that, first of all, he didn't sit with the other kids. He sat at a table next to my desk. I already had a relationship with him in biology because he took this 9-week class after I'd already had him 9 weeks of biology. And so he had never really become physically part of the class in that respect. So on the first day of speeches, they volunteer to give them. And of course you get down to the last few that you have to really encourage, and he was the last one. And he said I didn't write one. He wasn't going to do it. And he thought he could get out of doing it because he didn't write one. But the topic was tell us a little bit about yourself. About me is the title of it. So I finally was able to get him to come up and at least say, without any paper, you know, a little bit about himself. And he wasn't able to make any contact at all, eye contact at all. He mumbled a few things and sat down, and that was it for his first speech. The second speech, I talked to him after that about, you know, doing the speeches, and that this was going to become an academic thing if he didn't do them. So he wrote his second speech, but again, he was last, and it took a lot of encouragement to get him to come up there, and he had finally just told me before he came up, he said, I can't read. I had gone over to him and asked him, you know, in his ear, what's going on, and he said, well, I can't read. So he'd done his best to phonetically spell what he wanted to spell, but he couldn't even read what he'd written, and it was real difficult for me to read it too. So I said, Robert, why don't you come on up, and I'll stand with you and help you with any words you need help with. Would you do that? And he said, sure. Okay. So he came up, and the kids were like so excited, because here's this guy that's just kind of sat over to the side, participated minimally. They're very curious about him. And it's a real supportive and positive atmosphere in the class anyway, such that they were excited that he got up, and were just, waiting to see what he would say. So I helped him by kind of whispering in his ear as he read along so that he could read his speech. Kids went wild with applause. We applause after every speech anyway, but the kids went wild with applause afterwards and really patted him on the back. Because like I said, it was the last one. People were getting up, moving around the room, and patting him on the back, So by the time the third speech rolled around, one of the kids in the support chair said, "I want to stand with Robert this time." I said, "It's okay with me, it's okay with Robert." So Robert said, "Okay." So the kids after that took turns standing with Robert, putting their arm around his shoulder and whispering in his ear to help him read his speeches. And I felt like that's what they learned in my class, to take care of each other. So I'm kind of proud of that.